All right, let's look at the Pistons now. You look at Dwane Casey, 44 years as a coach, being in the NBA there. It says it's time for a new voice there with the Pistons. Worst record in the NBA this year, 17-65. What do you think about Dwane Casey leaving and going upstairs to the front office? And any sort of names that you're hearing out there with Detroit taking over?
Yeah, it's an interesting transition, and one that we've seen the last few years. Brad Stevens comes to mind. Just talking to head coaches that are out there and executives. And I'm not saying that coaches don't love the job and don't mind putting the grind in, Larry, but it's an easier job. It's an easier lifestyle when you're in a front office than when you're the head coach. It just is. And that coupled, again, I think a similar situation with the Pistons. I think that front office has done a really nice job building a dynamic young team. They obviously hope the ping pong balls bounce their way in the draft lottery here in a few weeks. But they're ready to turn a corner, I think, and try to actually start competing. And so this is probably Dwane Casey ready to do something else. It's probably also a situation where that front office wants to take care of, again, a very good coach who was in a tough spot, but might want a different person to be in charge. And I'll give you the same names. Ime Udoka is going to be in consideration. Nick Nurse is going to be in consideration if he leaves the Raptors. Frank Vogel is going to be in consideration. I think the real thing here, Larry, is not necessarily who these teams are targeting, but who those coaches I mentioned are going to target as the teams that they want to be a part of. Whoever gets Wembanyama at the number 1 overall pick, whoever wins that draft lottery, if they have a coach opening, that's going to be the coveted place. So I think we'll have to wait for this coaching carousel to really become clear when we know who's drafting where.
Yeah, Casey making the announcement post-game today after they got pretty smacked around a little bit by the Bulls today. He says Tom Gores, the owner, is giving him the opportunity to head upstairs. Look at the Pistons roster, Bill. They've got some talent as well. Jaden Ivey, some other pieces there. How attractive of a job is the Pistons there in the D in Michigan?
Moderately attractive if they're drafting 5th or 6th in this next draft, and extraordinarily attractive if they have the number 1 overall pick. You're right. Ivy is really good. I mean, you just go down the roster. That's a really good young basketball team. But there is not yet a difference maker. And maybe some of those guys will break through. But if Wembanyama's a guy that gets is a Detroit Piston, then it's a game in a different situation. I know Detroit's a bigger city than Portland, Oregon, but just talking to players, it's in a similar category. And no disrespect to Detroit or to the people in Portland, it's just hard to recruit talent to those cities. You have to overpay. It's hard to get stars to go there. And so you have to build through the draft. And I think the Pistons are probably another player at least away. And then a couple years removed, Larry, for these guys to just come into their own to be a real competitor.
So you're saying Detroit's not Miami or LA. Is that what you're basically saying? Or Phoenix or anything like that?
Look, I'm from Iowa, so Detroit is the big city, right. Northeast, far northeast. So I'm not taking any shots, but yes, the analysis is, it's not Dallas, right, where there's no state income tax. It's not LA, it's not Miami, it's not New York. It is a less desirable place for the many talented people out there who are multimillionaires and can largely choose in the NBA where they want to play.
That is code for challenges there with the Pistons in Detroit. He is Bill Reiter, our CBS Sports NBA analyst. Bill, thank you here on the last day of the NBA regular season. You look at the best chance to win the 2023 NBA Draft Lottery. NBA Draft coming up in June, late June there in Brooklyn at Barclays Center. You can see the Pistons, Spurs, and Rockets tied with 14% their odds to win the draft lottery. Pistons' worst record in the NBA at 17-65. Pistons also tied with the best odds there at 14%, 22-60. The Rockets actually won 3 in a row the last 3 games and 4 out of 5, so would have had the second best record in the worst record in the NBA. So draft lottery coming up. We'll find out more about that in May and the NBA draft in June in Brooklyn.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.